Traditional Spanish broth simmer for hours with slow cooked meats and tender veggies. The perfect combination. Hi everybody and welcome to my kitchen. It's me, Manny from Manny's Made at Home. Today I want to show you another Spanish recipe. As you may know, I grew up in Madrid in Spain, so I want to share with you Madrid's signature dish. Today we're going to be making a delicious Cocido Madrileño. Let's look at the ingredients that we're going to need. First, we need to work with our meat, and there's a ton of it. First, we've got some pork bone here, which I can put straight into my pot. And I also have some beef ribs with marrow. It's important you have something with marrow because this will give delicious flavor to the broth that goes straight in. Then I've got some bacon or pork belly, and if it's salted, it's even better because that brings the seasoning into the broth. Finally, I've got some beef. I've got a cut of beef here that's good for stewing for a long time. This will be cooking for a couple of hours, so it will get nice and tender, almost fall apart afterwards. But I am going to cut it in half and then put that straight in. Something like beef shank would work very, very well here. One last thing, I do have some slices of Serrano ham here. Typically you would put in a large chunk of ham, and if you have the bone, even better, but I found it very difficult to find this here in Ireland. Sometimes you can get it, but it's a bit hit and miss. I've rolled up my slices here. I'm gonna put them in. Hopefully they won't fall apart on me too much, and they will bring that delicious salty flavor and cured flavor as well into my broth. And now I'm gonna top it up with cold water and then put it on a high heat until it comes to the boil. All right, my broth came to the boil and I've reduced that to a soft simmer. Let's have a look what it's looking like. It's been about half an hour. I see some bubbles coming up every couple of seconds. That's what you want. You want a very soft simmer on this. There's a little bit of foam or scum forming on the top, so I want to make sure that I take that off using a spoon. All right, my broth is bubbling away there. It's been about an hour. While you check it, keep taking a bit of that foam off if you see that something starting to develop. But in the meantime, I'm gonna prep my veggies. Starting with my cabbage. I'm only gonna use, I don't know, about a third of it. I'm just gonna slice it finely. The order in which you add in your ingredients is what is quite important because everything kind of boils together, but you want them all to be finished at the same time. I can add in my carrots and my chicken now, but I won't just go in with my potatoes because we still have a bit to go until the end, so if I put them in now, they'll turn to mush by the time we're finished. This is what's known in Spain as a receta de campo, which means it's a recipe from the field. That's why you're using all of these ingredients you would typically find in a Spanish countryside field. Some might say the same about paella, so if you want to check out the recipe, click the card up here. You can see that the color of the broth is changing a little bit and it looks nice and clear, which is what you want. At this point, I'm gonna go in also with my chicken. Cover it up and we'll let it go for about 40 minutes. Okay, it's been 40 minutes now. Let's have a look. That's looking great. I actually have my potatoes here, which I'm gonna add in. I cut them in half because I'm running out of space, so I wanna make sure that I fit them in properly. And finally, I'm going to go in with my chorizo. Now I'm also gonna go in with my chickpeas. I'm using pre-cooked chickpeas. If you were using the dry raw ones, first you would have to soak them overnight in cold water, at least 8 to 10 hours. And then you can add them in at the very beginning of the cooking process. But mine are pre-cooked, so they don't need that long. Let me cover it up, and I'm gonna cook this for about 25 minutes. Since we're almost at the end now, I'm gonna work on my cabbage. So I just got the strips that we sliced earlier. I'm gonna put them into a pot, and you want to cook them until you reach your desired level of softness. I want mine to still have a bit of bite, so probably by the time the broth is done, this will be ready as well. Okay, we're pretty much at the end now. Let's have a look at our broth. It looks beautifully clear and there's still some bubbles going around, which is great. And my potatoes are just gone nice and soft. So at this point, I can just go with my final ingredient, which is my morcilla. And this boils for about 5 minutes, max 10. You don't want it to fall apart on you. My cabbage has been boiling for almost 15 minutes and it's getting nice and soft. I'm just gonna let it go a little bit longer because it's probably a bit too crunchy at this point, but after that we can drain it and we'll spice it up and give it one final fry. I have a frying pan here. I'm gonna add a tiny bit of oil, and in here I'm gonna crush in my garlic. I'm gonna fry this for a few seconds until they get nice and brown, but be careful not to burn them. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with a teaspoon of pimentón dulce or sweet paprika, and then add in your cabbage. Toss it all around. And here I'm also gonna add in a little bit of my broth, which is pretty much done now, and continue to fry this down. I'm just gonna season with a little bit of salt. I think it needs it. Okay, my cabbage is done, so I'm just gonna put it to the side here. And my broth is also done, so I'm gonna fish out the veggies. They might be very tender now, so be very gentle with them. And then in this other platter, I'm gonna put all of my meat. So I've got my morcilla, my chorizo, chicken and the beef. And I'm gonna take out my ham also, which somehow survived the whole process. And not forgetting about my bacon. And now I'm gonna separate out the chickpeas from the broth. There's just one more final thing we have to do. I've taken the stock and put it through a strainer. Everything's gonna be taken out of it now. So I'm gonna bring it to the boil and cook this little pasta in it. It will take like 5 minutes max to cook. My pasta's ready. Can't wait to put it all together and finally give it a try. And that's it, our delicious Cocido Madrileño. Okay, so this looks like a feast and you're probably wondering, how do I eat this? Let me show you. Typically what you would do is you would have your soup first and then you move on to your veggies and then lastly your meat. But also you can actually combine everything together, which is how I prefer to eat it. So I'm just gonna grab some veggies and some meat and put it into my soup. So at this point you wanna kind of slice up your chorizo so everybody that's sharing in the meal can take a little bit, and same with your morcilla. The beef you can just pull off, it's so tender. And all of this goes into my bowl. I couldn't fit my bacon or my chicken into my bowl, but you know, I can go for seconds, don't you worry, I'll be trying that as well. Typically we also have this kind of pickled chili peppers as well, which bring a nice zing to the dish. But now, let me give it a try. Delicious. That broth on its own would just be fantastic. But all of the meats and the pasta and the chickpeas, everything is just fantastic together. This is such a beautiful dish. The chili peppers give it a bit of that bite, something similar like what the raw onions did for my sopa de leche, which if you want to learn how to make, you can check it out by clicking the card up here. It's one of those dishes that is just full of flavor and comforting and so rich, but it may not be the most appealing to look at. But trust me, the flavor is all there. I hope you enjoy spending some time with me today. I absolutely love this recipe. There's something so comforting about it. It is perfect for the cold winter months. If you enjoyed the recipe, make sure you leave me a like and a comment below with what you thought of it. Share it with all of your friends and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. It's totally free and I post stuff like this every week. Don't forget to check my Spanish recipe playlist and my stew playlist. If you want to try this dish or any of my previous recipes and want to post them on Instagram, please tag me. I want to see how you get on. With that, I'll leave you for this video and enjoy.